All right. Well, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Health Made Simple show. I am here with our host, Dr. Bart Precourt, who has been a healthcare practitioner for over 20 years, practicing a range of modalities, including acupuncture, kinesiology, chiropractic, functional nutrition and supplementation, and lab testing, all out of his clinic, Balance Health Studio in Seagrove Beach, Florida, as well as virtually all around the world. He's also the founder of the Health Edge program, which is a cutting-edge health program for entrepreneurs and executives wanting to take their health to the next level. He's worked with celebrities and athletes all around the world, and tonight is going to kick us off with some clinical insights for the week.
Yeah, a couple of good clinical insights, and really these tonight are really just good for conversation of these aha moments. Like, oh yeah, all right, we probably need to pay attention here and listen to some of the things that are taking place here. So first gentleman, 58-year-old male, and we've been talking a lot about he wants his body's changing a little bit. Maybe getting a little thicker around the waist, et cetera. So down here at the beach, Karen, it's very conducive for the lifestyle of having a glass of wine midday.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And
holiday count, kind of. People are
maybe even you don't make it to midday, but it's very, very conducive. There's really not a 9 to 5 environment. It's very entrepreneurship minded. And so there's not like a steady, like 9 to 5 work day. So a lot of people are still working, yet there's a lot of flexibility in schedules. So it's very common that people, go watch the sunset and have a glass of wine and, nice things. And they catch up. Next thing you know, you're having a glass of wine every single night. So we had this conversation is real. So that's here in this community. And I bet you in many other communities, there's a lot of other things that same thing. We get in these rituals and these patterns, and part of the ritual, health ritual, they're all health rituals. Either they're helping your health or they're not helping your health. And it could be anything, but a lot of them include alcohol. And so we had this conversation, and I said to him several times, maybe, just start to reduce the alcohol. So this time he said, you have a strategy. This is what he says. You talk about a strategy you have for reducing alcohol, but not necessarily having to give it all the way up. And I just suggested one of the ones I like is more days off than on. So in theory, that would be at least 4 days off and 3 days on of drinking alcohol. And my strategy there, just for my other practitioners that are listening before they yell at me, is that once people get into that, you start feeling good in your 4 days off. And I don't have to do any more teaching from there. I don't have to do any more coaching, because the average human being is, man, I feel good. My mind is clear. My body's working a little better. I have less pain in the morning. Anyways, the guy does it for just one, 2-week phase, or maybe it's 2.5 weeks between I saw him. He lost 8 pounds. And
wow, just from drinking 4 and 3.
No, he did 5 too. He did 5 days off and kept the alcohol. And the 2 days on, he also said he reduced it significantly. I don't know what that means. I don't know how much he was drinking, but he was drinking 7 days a week.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much. But just that by itself, and this is what I told them. I said, I know that seems like no big deal and no one's going to really celebrate with you, but I want to celebrate with you because you just took the trajectory of your health in an entirely different way.
Yeah, he could have put on 8 pounds.
Oh, 100%. He already was. So he's not a big guy, but he was starting to add up. And he had told me he was 20 pounds overweight, which I wouldn't have thought. Yet for him, it was. He was typically pretty lean. And just at 58 years old, drinking every day, we know exactly where that goes. There's not even a question in my mind. Eventually, there's a blood pressure issue, there's cholesterol issues, there's an arthritis building up. It's writings on the wall. You will have one of the big 3 type of issues. So just a little reminder that sometimes there are some habits sitting right in front of us that if we change them, it can be very significant. The flip side, I'm just going to add to this. He has a very good diet, always has. And it's one of those things where I can't emphasize enough, where if there's always bad things coming in, no matter how good our good is, it can be very difficult to actually be good.
Yeah.
Because your body will always have to defend itself against toxins and try to, eliminate them. And as we get older, our detox pathways aren't as good as they were when they were younger. So we get a little bit behind the ball. So that was number one. So a high five for him. And what's interesting, when I saw him today, he's thinking now he doesn't need it at all. And he says, I might just reserve it for the times that I have to. And we had a decent conversation today. So I asked him, I said, so now what do you do at sunset? Because he still sees, he goes to the sun. Yeah. And he says he just brings like a water and lemon, a seltzer, something else. So, which is so important for everyone out there when you're trying to change our habits, you have to replace them. The universe does not allow for a void. We must replace them with something by choice. Otherwise, the universe just kind of slides something in there for us.
Yeah.
So it was real. It was kind of. It was.
I love that.
Yeah, it's really nice to watch those subtleties that make changes, and then he gets motivated because he's feeling better, and now he's going to work out better, and there's less pain in his body, et cetera. All right, number 2, 62-year-old female who just flat out would not go gluten-free for me. This is interesting.
I think there's a few people I know that would be like that.
And so her thing was that we live down here at the beach, and she always has visitors, especially her grandkids. And that's her pride and joy. She literally, and I get it. She loves being grandma. She has the kids, and food is a love language for very, very many people. And so she said to me, it's not like I'm going to feed the kids one thing and eat something else. And she said, I don't want to confuse them. I don't want to make about food. I said, all right. So she would just then keep asking me, well, what are your protocols? What are your gut protocols for, and she just want to take the vitamins, the supplements, and the herbs. And I would tell her, just what I just shared there, listen, you could do good with those things. Although the very first part of when I do a gut protocol is remove the bad guys.
Yeah.
So anyways, what's really, really cool here is that, so she finally and I mentioned to her all the time, and I jokingly say, you ready? And she's like, no, good birthday. And you ready? No, Memorial Day. You ready? No, whatever. Then she finally says, yes, I'm in 7 days gluten-free. So here's the cool thing. She loses 4 pounds. That wasn't even part of it, but I didn't know it was a part of it that she wanted. But it was the first time, she said, in years that she hasn't had gut pain every day. So,
wow.
Yeah. So that's huge. And now in this scenario, she was already taking a decent protocol.
Yeah. Okay.
But the protocol wasn't capable of doing its job as a result of all the
gluten in.
Yes. So of course, when she's leaving today, she did some acupuncture. I said, so we're going to keep this rolling. She said, yes. Yeah.
That's awesome. You know what? Some people take their own time to get there.
That's a great point. And that's why I'm glad I have the relationship with her that I do. It wasn't like a black and white situation. It was, all right, I'll serve you the best that I can. Although I'm not going to change my story. I'm going to make it inviting for you to hop on this health train when you're ready. And remember, and that's for everyone that's listening to this. The story shouldn't change. It should be repeated over and over again. Alcohol doesn't serve you and gluten doesn't serve you. And when you're ready to make those choices and to change that or to play with that a little bit in your life, awesome. So what I shared with her, I said, you ready to flip it over? And I said, when it's time to flip it over, I want you to feel this fully. And I told her, I want you to go out full out, have a pizza day, followed by a beer night, have a big old gluten party. So she fully feels the effect of what takes place when she has us in her body. So that was just a little funny, joking part for us. So again, nice little aha moment of someone just taking action, just taking action. Action's always the best medicine. Yeah.
And it's amazing that, as you said, that wasn't her first goal, but just to lose 4 pounds just by taking out that one thing, right? Like
under a week, Karen, under a week. Yes. Yeah.
Crazy.
And so what's interesting enough, I've had conversations with her about the realities of how much gluten is in most people's lives. And she said, and this is why she said, I would have to change every meal. Yeah. And I think that's real. A lot of people don't realize that. But if you have crackers and you have bread and you have pasta, or whatever, a muffin, a waffle, a pancake, you're eating gluten nonstop.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything in a packet, really.
Yeah, just about, right? So
like gluten in it. Yeah.
Yeah. So she had said, if I had to take gluten out, I'd have to change every meal.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's, maybe that's why I got to, such quick changes. And we both know, we talked about it, there's a long way to go from there. And she fully understood that. Just for have that, taking a little action, have that experience. Fantastic. All right. So again,
grandkids too. Might be hard to get them to eat some of that stuff. We'll see, but
yeah, we'll see. I didn't get that far yet. We'll see, and it's, the best way to teach is to lead. right? To be an example. So hopefully, kids are always paying attention. And the truth is, if grandma's eating something, they're going to want to eat it.
Yeah.
That's what kids do. Like, daddy has it, grandma has it. Like, as long as we're not being force fed it, right? That's you want to mimic the people that you love and care for. Okay. All right, one more here. So this one's a little different situation where this is kind of an aha. Let's pay attention out there. 59-year-old male. I've known this guy for several years, probably a good decade. He and his wife, they came in today. I haven't seen him in a couple months. And he said, I got a lot going on. I said, all right, what's going on? He said, well, I just went to the ER. I drove myself to the emergency room literally a couple nights ago and he had AFib. So when his heart gets out of whack there. So, all right, what'd they tell you? And he said, well, and then the wife kind of chimed in and said, well, they said that if it happens again, one of the possibilities is, and they called it something really as a pacemaker. So, I know them well enough. We could talk. And I said, well, did it wake you up at all? And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, hopefully they had a little conversation like this. And when they did their history, hopefully they asked you and they said, well, I'm not going to use his name tonight, but let's just call him Bill. Hey, Bill, how many nights a week do you drink alcohol? And listen, folks, I'm not trying to beat up alcohol, but we have to get real here when it comes to our health and our deficiencies. AFib is an electrical impulse issue. That means your electrolytes are out of balance. If you have a heart condition, you have a nutrient deficiency, period. As you age, you might have things going on that are making it harder and harder for you to have nutrients into your body. Then the muscle that's working the absolute most in the human body, which is the heart, eventually it shows up. So I had this conversation saying, well, did they have any of these conversations? The answer was a big fat no. Just a big fat no. And that is the part that I want everyone to remember. Just because someone doesn't say it, you go to the ER is not there to teach you about nutrition, teach you about health. They're there to save your lives, period. That's it. So God bless them because they're the damn best at doing it. And that,
they're amazing at doing that. I mean,
yes.
Get hit by a car, they piece you back together.
they do.
Right? Like amazing at that piece, but they just aren't built for the other piece.
Yeah. So we have this conversation a little bit, and I said, well, if I remember correctly, you're on blood pressure medications. Which one are you on? He says, I don't know. I said, do you know what it's for? He said, no. So how long have you been on it? He's like 10 plus years. I said, have you ever altered any changed your levels? No. Are you on a cholesterol medication? I know the answer. He said, yes. What kind are you on? Doesn't know. How long have you been on? About 10 years. You ever changed gone up or down and changed your lifestyle as a result of it? No. Why are you on them? So my doctor said it would be good preventative. Well, here's where it backfired.
He's on preventative statins.
Yes.
Kind of, maybe.
It's actually very common. That's a very common comment that I'll hear that my doctor said it'd be good as a preventative moving forward. I hear it all the time. I literally hear it.
I shouldn't have my mouth open like that, but
so anyways, this is a scenario where it kind of backfires because there are certain things that, like a statin or even a blood pressure medication, they start to limit things. So this is where it's not a free pass. So statin, just randomly here, one of the things that a statin will do would inhibit the production of something called CoQ10, which is a protector of the heart. So there are some really important things that there's no innocence behind when we take a drug or, a medication. And I'm not telling anyone to do it or not to do it, but we have to think a little bit bigger and broader about it. So anyways, the good news is we are set up for a virtual appointment. They're going to collect all their records. We're going to run the additional labs. And I said, let's get some frequent, new labs. And he said, well, we've got a lot of labs. And I said, I know you have a lot of labs, but we're going to run a lot more. Yeah. We're going to run a lot of them. So we see the whole picture. We're not going to miss anything here. We're going to make sure that we understand, is there an inflammatory process here? Is there a B vitamin deficiency problem here? Is there an iron panel deficiency? Are we low in hormones, too high in hormones? We'll figure it out. Is there a gallbladder issue, whatever it may be. So we're going to rerun all the panels. They're excited about that. So the good news is this, and this is where sometimes we can take some not good things and really flip them over. So the good news is I think it kind of scared him, humbled him, and he's fine, which is perfect. He's on some extra medications, but now it's a time for us to dig deep. So if you or anyone you're out there that knows that you got this moment in time, you almost got to pass to go do something better, take that opportunity. Yeah. That you still have your health and still have your wits about you, and go do whatever it takes. Find someone that understands how to get you healthier. Not just not sick, and not just, manage symptoms, ups, highs, and lows and all that kind of stuff, but really figure out how to strategize, and we'll hold you accountable. I have a good enough relationship with this gentleman that when I asked him, I said, all right, well, here's the deal. It's an electrolyte issue. And I was just being real simple and real fast with it. It's an electrolyte issue. Typically, the biggest ones are going to be magnesium and potassium, especially when it comes to the heart. We know that alcohol, sugar, stress, and poor sleep decrease magnesium at double the rate. How are those going? The wife chuckled.
That was your, yeah.
Yeah. So
you're right there.
yeah. And remember, because AFib is an electrical, that's why they would put in a pacemaker to balance the electricity of the heart. And I'm not trying to simplify it, yet it is kind of, we have to look at the root cause, and heart that's imbalanced is an AFib. And then we remember, like, without going to one of the reasons I'm not anti-gluten. I'm just, it's such an anti-health thing, is that it has something called phytates in it. Phytates are anti-nutrient. They block zinc, which blocks HCl. Now you can't break down your food, and your prostate's in trouble. Like, the link goes on and on and on. So the good news is they were all for the next level of leveling up their health, which is cool. And I think they were a little bit excited about them. I got them all tuned up. They felt better. And just to get their heads in the right space was the first important step. So we accomplished that, and I think they're on schedule, and it's probably going to be a month, but nonetheless, they're on schedule.
Awesome. And at least they've got some options now.
Yeah.
Or like a direction, or like some things that they can do besides.
That's always important. Sitting at home after you've received a diagnosis, or sitting at home after, something's happened to you medically, with your health, and just Googling and talking to other people who've had the same bad things happen, that is not the strategy. Yeah. So, hopefully you have someone in your corner that when it comes time like this, they can deflate the stress of it, and, create some opportunity or some enlighten the situation a little bit, and really lighten the situation a little bit, and say, all right, here's where we're at. We got a bunch of broken bones. We got to heal them up. Let's head in this direction. Yeah.
And if you don't, keep looking. Right.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
One of those people.
Yeah. Like we mentioned a lot of times here on the Health Made Simple show, that there are so many awesome men and women out there right now, really around the world. And because there's so many availabilities that are virtual, that there is someone out there that would be a great fit for you. Of course, I'll be happy to help anyone. Yeah. If it's not me, that doesn't mean there's not others.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. All right. Should we dive into some of these questions we've had written in?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So first one here. How do I know if I'm deficient in vitamins, and which ones I should take?
Okay. This is actually a really good question, especially since, we hear so much about taking vitamins, right? And we talk and supplements, we'll just throw them all in. Is there really a single test that tests accurately vitamins? So we'll break it down. Let's just call it vitamins and minerals. And then there's a lot of other supplements we can use for help treating different things. But vitamins and minerals, in terms of just pure lab, like blood tests, not really awesome. That's the answer. So there's not really good.
Get awesome results, or is it not very accurate?
It's not very accurate relative to what's in the tissue, the organ, or the gland. So there is one company that we use, and it's a little more expensive, and it takes a little bit more time. And I'll tell you why I use them, yet it's not something I say everyone should do. There's a company out of Houston called SpectraCell. They do probably the best micronutrient test that I've seen out of all the labs out there. And it's a little pricey, not ridiculous, but it's a little pricey, and it takes a little while. And that will probably give us the most accurate level of all your minerals and your vitamins. Now, with that being said, you can invest that money, or you can literally look at your lifestyle. This is an important one. We know that certain lifestyles are conducive to losing vitamins and minerals. We know that certain things you put in your body block them. So if you're taking medications, they're blocking some level of vitamin or mineral, absolutely, positively. Oftentimes you can do a quick Google search on that kind of stuff. But we also know fundamentals, say, like I mentioned magnesium a little while ago, alcohol, stress, those are huge ones. Sugar will deplete those. If you're on antacid, proton pump inhibitors, they're going to block things like the production of HCl. They're going to block zinc. Vitamin C, D, and zinc are like, all of those are going to end up being deficient. But we also use symptoms. So those are, we've talked on this show, like physical symptoms, like what happens when your fingernails are turning a little bit white, what happens, you're losing the outer third of your eyebrow. We've talked a lot about these things where your clinician can really help you do a deep dive here. And then sometimes we got to look at diet. So I'll often say, when it comes to like supplements and nutrients, one of the most important, especially for women, one of the most important nutrients out there for a woman is iodine. It is iodine. All right. And this is an interesting one. So everyone that's doing functional nutrition and working in physiology knows that, listen, the breast, the ovaries, and the thyroid, the primary nutrient for that is iodine. And you don't hear conversations about iodine or where to get it. The primary source is going to be shellfish.
Yeah.
And so when I ask people, do you eat shellfish? Yeah, I eat them. When's the last time you ate them? Well, when we had...
Once a month?
At best, literally at best. And there's trace amounts in some other foods. I think there's some in yogurt, a little bit in eggs, but little bits.
Yeah.
So that, for example, is something I think, until proven otherwise, or maybe in a scenario with Hashimoto's, and if things are really kind of active in Hashimoto's, your antibodies are going through the roof during that phase. Sometimes I don't have you on iodine, but most women would benefit from iodine, because if I tell you those three things, breast cancer, thyroiditis, hypothyroidism, anything to do with your ovaries, you need iodine. So there's a lot of reasons for that. B vitamins. If your gut has any issues, leaky gut, you have imbalanced bacteria, you've ever been on an antibiotic, you probably don't make your B vitamins properly. So it's safe to say that there's a lot of deficiencies just looking at our lifestyle. And now let's assume we're not putting anything bad into it. There's another group called your things like essential fatty acids. Any of them that have the word essential in front of them mean that you don't make them, so you got to eat them. And this is where we see some change, like where like vegans and vegetarians sometimes lose out a little bit. Essential fatty acids, those are your omega-3s, fish oils. That's why I'm such an advocate of things like cod liver oil or omega-3s and krill oil and tuna oil. These are essential. If you don't eat them, like, your body's in trouble. You need them for your brain health. You need them for your skin, your eyes, managing cholesterol. Most cholesterols are high because you're not providing the proper omega-3s, the proper essential fatty acids. So that's one, Karen. And then we could go into things like essential amino acids, which are essentially the building blocks of proteins. That, so where do you get those best source of essential amino acids? Probably grass-fed beef. You can get them from chicken, egg, and fish as well. So there's other opportunities there. So to answer that question accurately, lifestyle and diet, huge, absolutely huge. Knowing what you're putting into your body that could be blocking your absorption of nutrients is also huge. So I talked a minute ago about gluten having something called phytates in it. Phytates block C, D, and especially zinc. So that's not good. We just went through a pandemic and everyone said, well, we got to take zinc, and zinc's not enough. You got to take quercetin with it, because we need the quercetin just to drive that zinc into the cell, because we have issues, because we haven't had it for so long. Guys, us for prostate, the number one thing, as I mentioned, for women, it's iodine. For guys, zinc is our number one nutrient for our prostates. So when we think about that, if you've ever been on an antacid, if you ever had leaky gut, if a proton pump in a Prilosec, most likely you've downregulated your capacity to absorb zinc. If you're on an aspirin a day, you're talking about breaking down your vitamin C and collagen. So there's a lot of things. And so I guess the best answer would be, I love the question, and get with someone that knows how to navigate all this for you and find out kind of your most needed wish list and red flag stuff. There are foundationals that we've also talked about. Essential fatty acids been in there, a whole food multivitamins been in there, and magnesium is one that I almost give just about everybody, because we see that, for the most of the people in the world are deficient in magnesium. So fairness in that question, I don't know that there's one single way. There are some labs that are very effective. They're not the most easy to access. I would say that most doctors, unless they're doing functional nutrition, probably don't even know those labs are available.
So really, get the foundations in, like have a multivitamin, as you said, essential fatty acids, some magnesium, and then watch your symptoms.
Yeah, a whole food multivitamin, way different. So I'm not talking about Centrum. I'm not talking about the 1-a-days or anything like that. We're talking about a whole food multivitamin. When you look at the ingredients, it says things like alfalfa sprouts. It says things like beef liver. It says real things that are in there. And if you can't find them anywhere on that bottle, they are not in there.
Yeah,
I know that sounds weird. Some people say like
that you like, right?
There's one called Catalyn. It's one of my favorites. It's literally one of the first supplements made in our country.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get my dog to stop licking over there.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Cool. Next question is, what do you think of platelet-rich plasma therapy for knee pain and arthritis in your knees?
All right. Well, this isn't it's not a service I provide, PRP. That's what they call it. Placement-rich plasma is PRP. A little backdrop on that. They literally extract blood from you. They they pull it out of your vein, and then they spin it down and they get the plasma-rich proteins in there. And then they inject it back into you. It's pretty fascinating. Great technology. It's been around for a while. I would say clinically, I've seen the results mediocre. And I think I have a reason for that, and I'll share that reason because it can be a bit pricey. And then I'll talk about some other strategies you can do for knee stuff because I happen to know a little bit at this point.
Yeah. Okay.
So one of the reasons I believe a lot of the stem cell therapy that we've seen, and especially the PRP, not be so effective is because
is PRP a stem cell therapy? Is that what they're talking about?
It is a source of it. It's not like the only source of stuff. There's different types of stem cell therapy. We can get them from other people, and you can get them from like umbilical, like from outside. The beauty of the PRP, you will have no allergic reaction no matter what. Not that you have that with other stem cells, but it's literally coming from your own blood. So there's
this is coming from your own blood as opposed to you can have stem cell therapy, which is from donated.
Correct.
Blood or whatever else.
Younger people, younger stem cells, etc. So the plasma, the PRP, that's one of the advantages coming from you. And that's kind of nice. And they're extracting blood. Now, I've seen the results. I'm going to say mediocre. Some people I see decent results and some people I don't. The thing we have to remember too, especially with any arthritis is a foodborne disease. And 100%. It's really what it is. It means that joint was used and it didn't get the nutrients it needed to recover, period. That means there's been an inflammatory process. And this is what I see. I see people my athletes, quite frankly, that get PRP and they get good diets and they're doing hot and cold therapies and they're doing other adjunctive things. I see them get phenomenal results. And then the people who are just doing it and they're spending the big bucks thinking that that's going to fix their knee, temporary at best. And the challenge is sometimes the PRP can be a little and I'm all right with this. It can be a little uncomfortable getting it. Like it can burn, sting. I have not gotten one. It's just the reports that I get. And then sometimes the actual results don't come for a couple months. And sometimes people give up on them. So the technology is fantastic. I don't know if I've seen phenomenal results in it, but there are some other things that can be a lot less expensive that I've seen really good results with. So one being a really, really good diet. So I know I always go back to that. Yet we can't have a fine-tuned machine body. Our joints and everything can't be really good if we're not putting really good stuff into our bodies on a regular basis. And especially if we're no longer 20 years old, our detox pathways, they're just not as efficient as they once were. We're lower in glutathione, we're lower in, all these different things, nitric oxide, all these things that help us just get things out of our body, and they're not there anymore. So we have that deficiency, that working against us. So we must have a diet that's just cleaner. We've talked about, both of us personally have talked about how clean up our diet. We have a lot less pain in our lives. So
a lot less pain. Yeah.
So if you have arthritis, make sure that you are just like my friend who just went to had the AFib. Make sure you're having a conversation that's being real with you and say, clean your diet up.
Yeah.
Not just clean it up, but get it, dial it in. So there's no more junk coming in your body. So you are no longer producing inflammation. Then whatever therapies you're choosing, regardless of which ones they are, they're going to be more effective. So The next therapy that I like that we have just made a commitment in our office to purchase one that's super expensive. It's shockwave therapy. It's a type of sound therapy. The actual therapy itself can be a little uncomfortable. The impact of what it does, it goes in, it's a shockwave therapy, it's not invasive. So there's not like a surgery or anything like that. You just lie there. It looks like a big ultrasound, like a mama might have for their baby, like, and they're looking around, looks like that. And there's a gel and everything, and it goes over and it sends in this shock wave, and really it's a sound wave therapy. And when it hits areas of scar tissue or areas that have a decreased blood supply, and that's ultimately what happens in arthritis. There's a lack of a blood supply because you're not getting nutrients and oxygen and hormones to the area because it's not repairing and it's breaking down. Well, I got to come up with better terminology for this, but really it breaks it up. It kind of explodes it. It's called remodeling, and it helps remodel the tissue, gets increased circulation, and you can really do some wonders for it. So it creates your own body's stem cell response. It's absolutely fantastic technology. So we're super excited. We're going to bring it to the office soon. So that certainly can do a clean diet, huge. So even that therapy, I would tell people, yes, it's going to do what it needs to do. But if you want to take that to the next level, and the reason I mentioned that, a diet in that is a lot more cost efficient than things like stem cell. There's exosomes out there, which I'm a huge fan of. We'll talk more about that in another show. The exosomes are fantastic. I like them even better than the stem cells. There's some great technology there. Very expensive though. So it's hard for here on our Health Made Simple show, right? It's hard for me to say it's all real simple, but it costs $5,000. You follow me? So it's wonderful. It's wonderful, and I read the books and the podcasts and everything, and a lot of the information that's out there. And then you dive into it and be like, well, I can't do that. It's $25,000. Well, whatever, or I have to fly, 3/4 way around the world to go get that therapy. So here, not to say that those things aren't wonderful or that I wouldn't be doing them myself. Yes, here I try to keep it as simple as can be, where let's make this as real as can be, and fit it into people's lifestyles the best that we can.
And as you were saying, there are some simple things that actually make a big difference. Like we might want to look for the stem cell stuff, but we haven't cleaned up our diet yet. Let's do that first.
Yeah, I think that should always be the strategy. Anytime someone brings that up to me about stem cells or any of those things, all right. So as you're searching it out, as you're doing your research, this is the time you clean up your diet. Personally, I wouldn't recommend you spending any of your money until you've got it dialed in. Where we're dialed in, I mean, you're like 98% on point.
Yeah. Awesome. Love it. All right. We've got a question here on Facebook. What would you suggest for a female athlete with low iron and low iron saturation? And could low WBC be associated with that?
The answer is yes. So the WBC is the white blood cell count. So usually if there's a low white blood cell count, I also want to look at things like the neutrophils and lymphocytes to find out and make sure that you're not experiencing some kind of like chronic viral issue here. That actually is one of the reasons I run the Epstein-Barr virus test. Because if you have a long-standing virus in your body, white blood cells can go down. And so there's a lot of other reasons as well. So we're just going to kind of keep our eyes on that. If you have low iron and saturation issues, really the way we want to look at it is we got to get better sources and help your body absorb better. I only use plant-based. I don't know if that's, for the most part, it's not only, but for the most part, I use plant-based irons so they don't bind up to anything. Those ideas of those big iron pills and stuff like that, do not do that. It just gets bound up into the body. So really in this scenario, we want to help the ferritin receptors that are essentially receiving iron. We want to make them better. So think of the baseball glove. We want to make sure that glove can receive the ball, which is iron. So I assume someone like this that knows they have low iron probably is saying, all right, I'm going to take some kind of iron. We use something very specific called Ferrofood. It's a plant-based iron. We always start low dosing. So we want to get the body used to kind of absorbing it. Karen, just pumping in high levels of iron just to manipulate the blood work is not going to help anybody. Okay. So we want to help. The other part of this, if the saturation is low, we're also starting to think, we probably got to clean the body up. There's probably a lot of inflammation. those little cell receptors. We got to start to clear things out. This individual, I'd love to have you in like the diet plan would be like all vegetables and a moderate amount of healthy meats, but lots of clean vegetables.
They have a follow-up that this person has had COVID in the last 3 months as well.
Okay. And that could do it. So that could tank those white blood cells. So these are probably two different things. Yeah, that's very common. We saw after COVID that a lot of white blood cells went down. So working on and bringing them back up is important. So that's where, again, a clean diet. This is a great question, because there's a lot of people got COVID, didn't do anything afterwards, but there we are.
People didn't do anything afterwards.
Didn't do anything. But right now, this young person or whoever they are, they are walking around with less of an army. Yeah. So white blood cells, those are your army. That's your army ready to take on to a battle. There's a vulnerability here now. So we want to build that army back up, and we do that through all these healthy practices we talk about. Number one, of course, when we heal when we sleep, so we want to make sure that's there. We want to get all the good nutrients in, all the bad guys out, clean up the gut. There's usually some after effect issue for the gut, and we talked about the different things, if one want to call them the post-infection issues that we have, the syndromes that happen, PISs, post-infection syndromes, and long haulers, whatever we want to call it. You can't call it certain things. Now, if you call it certain things, again, you just get blocked. So I probably said one of them that wasn't supposed to be said. Yeah. So anyways, clean up the white blood cells. For the iron, make sure that there's I have a lot of success using something called Ferrofood. There's another liquid one that I use. It's called Femax, but and then usually between those two, I get some great results, get the iron levels up healthy. And listen, if you have low iron levels, you have low white blood cells, poor girl's probably out of energy. Because it's difficult, because you need the iron and the white blood cells. So you could be in a vulnerable state. So boost those up, and you got some good days ahead of you.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Next question here. Should women consume soy? And if so, is there a best time during their cycle to eat it? Never thought about the best time to eat soy.
Yeah, so I think that part of it comes from, we always hear that soy has an estrogenic effect. Yeah. So we got to back this up for a little bit here, because I think soy can be a little confusing. So the challenge with soy is that I want to say there's three challenges. One, it's almost 100% GMO, genetically modified. Okay. Two, it does have the estrogenic effect. And number three, let's not forget about this part right here. It has phytates in it, just like your gluten does. So those phytates steal your vitamins. So they're thieves of your good health. So that's a challenge. Now, if someone did a profile on an amino acid profile of the protein available in soy, whoa, this is pretty good here. And maybe in a naturally occurring state, it could be good. And there's the asterisk here is this: it must be fermented. Yeah, so if it's organic, if it's organic and fermented, yes, then we could be looking at a product that's pretty decent. And I don't know that I would try to map it out to a cycle. I'll let the body do the work on that. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily chase someone's cycle around, be like, "Hey, eat soy today, not tomorrow." And say, let the body. It's brilliant, knows what to do with those things. The challenge is the other three things, though: the phytates, they're GMO, and that they're estrogenic. And what that means is that if you put it into your body, so there's cases, and I know some doctors have had this. That guys, this is wild right here. Guys that drank soy milk, and they lactate.
Oh, no way.
Oh, yes, way. Yeah. So that's a real thing. Wow. I know. Weird, right? So and that's the estrogen effect. I'm not saying that's going to happen if you have a glass of soy milk. Yeah, we want to be mindful of what they can do. And I know some women,
but yeah.
Yeah. So it's, even in the moderation part, I would say no here. Not like, and where are we going to see this? And this is not going to go over well. You're going to see this when you go out to sushi, folks. That's not organic, right? And you're going to put a little soy sauce in there. And that soy sauce, by the way, has gluten, it has MSG, and it has high fructose corn syrup. So,
what can we use instead of soy sauce? What's some soy sauce alternatives?
There, oh man.
What can you use? Coconut aminos and things like that? Do you use any of those kind of things?
Yes, coconut aminos. I don't even know if you can tell the difference. When my wife cooks with the coconut aminos, is this soy, huh? I'm like, because it always tastes like a soy sauce, but it does. Yeah. So that's a great alternative. It tastes
a little bit better. I think it's hard to go back to soy sauce after. I think it tastes.
Yeah.
Well, it's a little bit less salty.
But. Yeah, it's a great alternative. So there are some really good options there. So for that point, that's kind of the story of soy. And I think this is an important one for everyone to understand. There's a lot of people still think that soy is a superior alternative to milk, and it is not. Yeah. To some degree, we need to bag both of them.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Meaning,
so what's your favorite different milk alternative?
I think the healthiest one, if I really just look at it, probably coconut.
Yeah.
I like almond. It's a little sweeter.
Yeah.
So I don't really use either one. So in our cafe, we only use cashew. We make it all. It's fresh made every day. Milk. Yeah, it's so easy. So listen, everyone can make cashew. You get raw cashews, bring them home. You do 1 cup of cashew, 4 cups of water, put in your Vitamixer, blender, add sea salt, and you got yourself an incredible milk that has a little bit of fat and a little bit of electrolytes in it. It's absolutely fantastic. Yeah. So that's really what we use. In my coffee, I tend to go to coconut, like a coconut creamer. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. I don't know whether I've even had cashew milk, I'm going to have to make it. Yeah.
Super easy to make.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why I never thought of it. I just made almond milk, never made cashew milk. I'm going to give it a go.
The nice thing about cashew and coconut, they're much easier to make than almond milk. You don't have to do the whole
coconut milk the best, I think, just in terms of kind of taste.
Yeah. Again, nice source of fat.
One that I like, what do you think about a coconut and rice milk mix? I'm thinking the rice is probably not great. It's organic, but.
Well, if you have a good quality source, that's going to be the big one there. So not bad. It's certainly better. I would love to tell us to do, cow's milk, right? The challenge is what's in cow's milk nowadays in the way that it's processed. So, and I understand what people say, oh, cow's milk is good. It has, essential amino acids. It has different bacteria. It has, probiotics. It did. I agree. It did.
Yeah. Once upon a time. The milk that you're getting from your Safeway doesn't have much of that anymore.
Yeah. Not super high quality anymore. I'll see more problems with the milk than actual benefits.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. What is reverse T3? My thyroid panel doesn't have it. Is it important to look at?
In my opinion, it is very important to look at. So reverse T3, and I'll try to keep this simple. I know we're running short on time. So reverse T3, when you run your thyroid panel, you look at things like T4 and T3 and TSH. There's some others, but those are the standard that most people are familiar with. TSH means thyroid stimulating hormone. And hopefully that falls between like 0.5 and 2.5, somewhere in there. That's a nice functional range. Now your T4 is the actual amount of hormone that you're producing. T3 is the active part. That's the one that goes to work on your metabolism. That's the one that kicks things into gear. Reverse T3 shuts it down. It's a byproduct of T4, and reverse T3 will then take the actual T3 and shut it down. So if you have T3, here's where it gets really tricky, Karen. You can have normal TSH, normal T4, normal T3, but still have expressing all the symptoms of hypothyroidism, and your doctor says looks fine to me. This is why I think it's important. I see it more important now than ever. So reverse T3 happens when the body's under a lot of duress. So we look at it clinically and say, oh, super high T3, reverse T3, this person's under a lot of stress. The thyroid's under stress. It's producing kind of the anti-T3, which is reverse T3. So your T3 is supposed to turn things on like metabolism, and it shuts it down. So it kind of stalemates it. And there's still a little bit of still science to be learned exactly how the mechanism is, but essentially that's what's taking place clinically for the individual. So there's other markers too we got to see. So we need to know the antibodies here, but this is one over the years, I do not want to miss it, because if someone's panel looks normal, but they're having all the symptoms of hypothyroidism, it could be because of the reverse T3. Then it changes our strategy. it changed our strategy more. Maybe this is adrenal case more. Maybe this is, I got to focus on the gut or the sleeping, challenges here. So I do think it's an important one. You're going to probably have to ask your provider if they're doing functional nutrition, functional medicine. Most likely they'll say, all right, yes, I should be running this anyways. If not, they probably will have no idea why you want to run it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it isn't, in my opinion, it is important because you could see a normal panel, 100% normal. There's other things that can happen too. So if you ever have seen your panel and has high T4 will produce more reverse T3. So we want to know these other numbers just so when we're going to, do our best to diagnose and or treat your thyroid conditions, we know what we're treating.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. I had a couple more questions on what we were discussing in the last question. What about, do you have any thoughts on organic tamari source and also non-GMO oat milk?
The non-GMO oat milk, to go there first, it's not my favorite of the group. It's still much higher calorie and fat content. Most of them still have binders in them. Like if you go to your local coffee shops, oat milk is real popular right now.
Yeah, it is. Even here too. Oat milk's like the new thing.
My wife could probably answer this one better. Quite frankly, she's not having it. And we've had a lot of reps come out and be like, oh, this is the oat milk everyone's using. She'll look at it, go through those ingredients, and she'll be like, we're not using it here. So we've made that commitment to only have clean foods in our place. And there's a lot of different binders. I think they're still using carrageenan and some other stuff in the oat milk. And it's much higher in caloric intake. So knowing that there's cashew, there's almond, there's coconut milks, there really are.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, next question I've got here. What are your thoughts on bone density tests? If someone is doing weight-bearing exercises regularly, is it necessary to take supplements like calcium and vitamin K, which some functional medicine doctors recommend? And if so, do you have any standard process ones?
All right, so there's a lot right there. We're going to unpack this, Karen. So when it comes to all right, so let's back the bone density test. We'll just start there.
What about bone density tests?
So I think they're okay.
Yeah, what do you think of bone density tests?
Yeah, so I think they're okay. They've changed some of the standards over the course of the years, and really what I find, everyone falls into the category of either some level of osteoporosis or osteopenia. So,
and one of the things, if you fall into that, great if you're kind of looking at supplementation, but if you do that test, the doctor that you do that test with is likely going to recommend a different course of action.
Correct. Some meds that have been proven not to work. So, and
that have some not great side effects, right?
Yeah,
Are those meds tend to be?
They are, but since we don't need to have that conversation here. Just because. So
what do you think of the tests?
What I really liked, so the test, let's just take it as part of the data. But let's go with the second part of that question was if they're already doing weight-bearing exercises and they're building up some muscle, that's the number one thing. Strong people don't break bones. That's the reality. So the second part of it, so osteoporosis, so very much like osteoarthritis, osteoporosis is a foodborne illness. Yeah. So here's where we got to get strategic about it. So I started the show by saying there's some interesting things about understanding calcium. Everyone's on it. There's different qualities, no doubt. There's some, I'll just start off by saying, if you go to your shelf and you have calcium right now and it's something called calcium carbonate, just toss it. It's very unbioavailable. It's building up in your body more than you're breaking down. So it's really, really cheap stuff to make. So if you're having it, you're better off probably not even using it. Number one place to get calcium, veggies, no doubt about it. It is the most abundant mineral out there. That's when it comes to plants and vegetables and fruits. So it's very easy for us to get. It is the number one mineral by far in the human body. So we need lots of it. So let's kind of break this down a little. Let's just say there is a history, and maybe you have osteoarthritis. And then we look at some other symptoms that go with it. Maybe let's just say you did a bone test and come back bad. You are weight bearing, but now you got some other things. If you see the kidney stones, all right, and you see some tartar buildup on the teeth, That is calcium that builds up there. So we have a calcium phosphorus imbalance. This individual does not need any more calcium. They need phosphorus, even though their bone scan could have showed up a little wonky. So I'm just going to throw that out. The kidney stones, tartar buildup on your teeth, you need more phosphorus. That's what balances out calciums, and those two need to go together. Now it's taking a different direction. Let's just say that you have cavities or you have deterioration of the bones. They're literally wearing away. Now you have all kinds of osteoarthritis and joint pain, maybe even a little rheumatoid arthritis. You see the changing in the body. This is a calcium deficiency. Okay. This is where we do need a good ionizable source of calcium, and we need it quickly because we're seeing change, and that change took a long time to get there. My favorite one to use there is something called calcium lactate. I'm going to get real specific on when and how to use. Like, there's different things for different situations. Calcium lactate is super ionizable. It's very bioavailable, and you can go pretty strong in it. So I forget the actual milligrams that I recommend typically, but calcium lactate is the number one that I use there. The type of calcium, and that's different than calcium carbonate. That's one we do not want to use. So I want to shift a little bit here. And let's just say that you're weight bearing. You have a test and it says you run a little bit low, and you don't think you don't have kidney stones, your joints aren't degenerating, you're feeling pretty good, and you just want to build strong bones and teeth. There's nothing better than something that's called calcifood. Calcifood comes in either a wafer or a powder. So I want to explain it. This is the Mac Daddy. If someone breaks a bone in my office, they take this. This builds bone. It's made from bone. It's bone meal. It is raw bone meal. They use the spine, the ribs, the skull. That's what they use to make this. And what's really important, what I'm going to say next is sometimes you don't know these details. This is cold pressed, so it's not heated up. Once it's heated up, that calcium is very difficult for the body to absorb. And that's why I say there's a big variety of what's taking place out there. So, and again, this isn't, when we talk about how important it is to make sure we are building good, strong bone, we got to be smart about it. So if you think you have a bone deficiency, get with someone that understands the nutritional component of this, because it's important that we can, get these things into our body in the right shapes and form. But calcifood wafers, calcifood powder, phenomenal at building health and making strong teeth. If your teeth are getting loose, this calcifood powder really works. So it's really good. So anyone who breaks a bone in my office, they use calcifood powder. If they have a deficiency in calcium, I give them calcium lactate. If I see that there's kidney stones and they have that osteoarthritis, and even if that test comes out bad, first thing I want to make sure is that they have enough phosphorus in their body. And we use something called phosfood there.
Phosfood. Okay. Okay, awesome. I will I'll get some of the links to those supplements so you guys can check those out. And now we're almost out of time, so let's move into our last question, which what is going to be the one action that our listeners take to move them towards their goal of becoming superhuman?
I'm going to say step up your health game. After the clinical insights I had today, we had the one lady just decided finally after some struggle to get rid of gluten. She stepped up her game. Results immediately. Right. Yeah. I have the other guy who gave up alcohol. Results immediately. The other guy who had the AFib, went to his hospital, took action, came to see me. Right. So now we're hoping that we'll get some results here as well. So take measurable, actionable steps for your health. That's what I'm going to say. Step it up for your health.
I love it. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in. We will be back next week, same time, same place, for another episode of the Health Made Simple show.
Yes, and of course, appreciate and love all you guys. Keep doing the thing, keep sharing out, keep spreading the love. You never know how far reaching something that we do or say in a show like this can reach others or affect their lives as well. So, and of course, we're going to take deliberate action for your mind, your body, your overall wellness. You'll be awesome.